What's up, everybody? Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. We hope you are well. Mike, we're going to talk about some weird stuff tonight, that being the Vatican, but not the normal weirdness of the Vatican.
Right. Well, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you consider the normal stuff. Like, for the purpose of this show, we could have gone a number of different ways. Had we been smart and really thought about this, like, I didn't even really think about this in connection with the new movie that's coming out, The Pope's Exorcist. And had I put, 2 seconds of thought into it and connected these things, I could have done an episode on The Pope's Exorcist. But wasn't a thought when I was researching this episode until I kept seeing the priest Father Amorth pop up again and again. What I was kind of looking at, and I also wanted to, I was specifically avoiding like the weird conspiracy stuff, like what, I don't even know what the hell it's called, but that big room where the Pope talks that looks like a fucking snake face.
Whoa, shit.
And yeah, like there's a lot of weird shit, man, that like ties in with just like a lot of weird symbolism, and then there's a lot of stuff that ties back to various pagan religions as well as like ancient Egyptian stuff as well. But again, that could be a show on its own as well, and it probably will be at some point, along with an episode on the various exorcists and exorcisms that have taken place in the Vatican. But today is not that show. Today, I wanted to kind of talk about a few weird cases, just kind of like general weirdness, I guess. Not necessarily tied to like miracles necessarily, but in one case maybe, or I don't know. The whole Vatican, it's a weird place. For one, it's a country that exists inside a city inside of another country. So that's weird. It's got a population of like 1,000 people, I think. It's super small.
That's all, huh?
Yeah.
Weird indeed.
Yeah, but the city, before it became what it is today, like going back to ancient Rome and the Roman Empire, there was an excavation done in the 1940s. And when they're excavating underneath the Vatican, before I get into this, let me explain. Under the Vatican, there's like this huge necropolis. I think it's like 30 feet below the ground, and it's just filled with all these various skeletons. A lot of them are former holy men, or in some cases saints. Saint Peter himself was buried on Vatican Hill, which was originally outside of where the main Vatican space is. And during the 1940s, there was excavation being done underneath by Pope Pius, because he wanted to search for the bones of Saint Peter, because he was hoping to, when he died, he was hoping to be buried as close to the remains of St. Peter the Apostle as possible. And for anyone who doesn't know, the position of Pope is typically a position that one would hold for the remainder of their life. There haven't been very many popes that have stepped down, but the Pope before Pope Francis, Pope Benedict, he actually was one who stepped down. And there's some weirdness associated with that, both from a conspiracy side and a supernatural side. I'm going to avoid the conspiracy side because it has a lot to do with covering up the
certain activities.
Yeah, I don't want to get into any of that stuff. The the notorious things that people always joke about priests. But anyway, I'm going to talk about the supernatural stuff about that, not the gross stuff. But anyway, Pope Pius was searching for these bones, and he was excavating the necropolis underneath the Vatican, when they came upon these grave sites that dated back to before the Vatican was even thought of, like dating back to Imperial Rome.
Whoa.
That's how far back these grave sites go. So this has always been, for one reason or another, somewhat of a I guess a sacred space. You know, you're burying your dead there, so in one regard or another, it's still a sacred place. And then built on top of that, they had they actually built the Vatican, but just outside, before the Vatican was built, you had Vatican Hill, which, as I mentioned, was where St. Peter was said to have been buried. Now, but in these in the necropolis, they have done these extensive maps or exploring the tunnels and everything. And there were some tunnels discovered that seem to have been more recent, like within the past 100 years or so. And there were thousands of skeletons found in these tunnels. And these were discovered when a little girl went missing. There's actually a documentary on Netflix about her. Her name was Emanuela Orlandi. And during the investigation that happened, I believe it was reopened again in 2023. She went missing back in 1983, and the Vatican officially opened up the catacombs and everything to allow investigators to look in there, and they uncovered these fresh. I don't want to say fresh. They uncovered more recent tunnels that were dug, like I said, within the past 100 years, that contain thousands of unknown skeletons. They have no idea who these people are. And they investigated them. None of them belonged to Emanuela Orlandi, but thousands of skeletons.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But I say all that because this is a place that's like literally built on top of the dead. So you're going to have that the energy that would go along with that, whether or not, you're going to have actual hauntings of ghosts or whatever. But it is interesting to me that the Catholic Church is involved in actually studying the paranormal. We've talked before on various shows we've done discussing miracles, how in order to be considered a miracle, it has to undergo rigorous testing and research and investigation. And the Vatican has these specific agents that get sent out to these places to investigate and judge whether or not these alleged things are miracles or not. And whether you believe in that stuff or not, that's your own thing. But they have debunked several of these things, like the Weeping Mary statues, especially the ones that are said to be weeping blood. They've uncovered a lot of those that are just using animal blood. People will create these things to kind of try to, I guess, get donations or whatever, quote unquote donations. And then they just run off with thousands of dollars because it becomes like a tourist thing. Like, who doesn't want to see, especially like in the minds of the faithful, like if you can actually witness a miracle, like think of it from like a paranormal perspective, when you could go somewhere and be guaranteed to see a UFO, like no question, like just come here. There's a UFO right here, literally. You can just come see it. Like, people would flock to that shit. In the same way people flock to these things, like the oil stain that looks like Buddy Christ, or the potato chip that looks like an angel or whatever. And so I joke about that because a lot of that stuff is really silly, but there's some things where it's actually an unexplained event, like the what the hell, the tilma of San Juan, I think was his name, the one where he was wearing the tilma and it was impressed with the image of the Virgin on it, but it wasn't actually like in the fiber. It was just floating above it somehow, like fraction of a millimeter above the fabric, like microscopic, but enough that they're able to, like, it's so fucking weird. It's such a weird thing, but that was deemed authentic. And there have been statues that were crying blood that were deemed authentic as well, but in the same hand, for every one you've got all these fakes. Like, there was one which fucking this one kills me, but so there was this woman named Gisela Cardia, and she claimed to have this vision where she had this statue of the Virgin Mary that was crying blood, and apparently the vision came true and the statue began to cry blood. So then she started to claim that the Virgin Mary not only would cry tears of blood, but would be able to multiply gnocchi and pizza.
What?
Just like loaves and bread, but the Italian version, I guess. I don't know. This is what she was claiming, that her statue, if you put gnocchi and pizza in front of it, it would somehow multiply. And you could you could feed a whole group with this multiplying gnocchi and pizza. But people started showing up from all over the place, and it was determined that the tears that the statue was crying were actually pig's blood, and this lady made off with thousands of dollars, or I'm sorry, not dollars, euros, thousands of euros from people that had donated to her, thinking that this was an authentic miracle. But the investigation team looked into it and they said nah. But anyway, I bring up these investigators because the Pontifical Mariana International Academy, which is the Holy See or the Vatican, it's their scientific institution. So this is basically like they do the astronomy research, any scientific type stuff that you would need through or to run the Vatican, or to prove, I guess, miracles or whatever. This is the science group within the Vatican. But just today it was public. Well, I say today when we are recording this, which is the evening of April 14th. Earlier today, there was articles put out about this new specialist observatory that's opening up, with the explicit purpose to evaluate and study, quote, apparitions and mystical phenomena across the globe. And this is supposed to include ghost sightings, poltergeist activity, stigmata. For anyone who doesn't know what stigmata is, it's where a living person will miraculously bear the wounds of Christ. So the hands, or the holes in the hands and feet, and sometimes they'll have the wounds on the forehead from the crown of thorns, or a wound in their side from the spear. And they'll investigate like miraculous appearances, like images of holy figures showing up, or Virgin Mary crying blood, or crying real tears, and anything like that. They're going to be investigating. So they're opening this brand new thing up specifically with the intention of studying these things. And one of the representatives said that he's one of the priests who actually works at the institute, Father Gian Matteo Roggio. He told the local Italian media that in Italy alone, there are 100 ongoing phenomena that the church is following closely. And they're looking to, so they're following, this is just within Italy alone, but they're also looking into cases all over the world and using this new observatory like as the center of like the headquarters, I guess we could say.
Wow. So this sounds like I mean, with the whole church stuff behind it, of course, but the mega paranormal investigative unit that we've always dreamed of.
Yeah, like this sounds like something you'd make a movie about, you know? Like like just the holy ghost hunters. Like these are the badasses you call in when there's nothing else you can do. Your local priest can't exorcise your demons. The fucking haunting continues. Little Timmy's getting locked in the bathroom and choked out with curtains. Who are you gonna call? You're gonna call the fucking Catholic psychic investigators of the Vatican.com.
Catholic psychic investigators. Come on, we need a song now. Shit. Why do I make all this work for myself?
Yeah, it's the Catholic psychic investigators of the Holy See. The Pontifical Mariana International Academy. Fancy as fuck.
You're going to have to send me an email with a name so I can write a song.
Okay. But to me that it's really cool that this is opening up and that it's like, I don't know of any other institution that would build an observatory just to study these sorts of weird phenomena.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that they specifically mention ghosts and poltergeist activity.
I mean, that seems like it would kind of be their wheelhouse above all other paranormal activity.
Yeah. But it's just like, to me, the idea of a ghost, like the idea that a ghost is the body of someone, or the spirit of someone who's died, it doesn't seem like it would fit with the belief system, you know, because when in Christianity, Catholicism specifically, when you die, your soul goes to heaven, hell, or purgatory, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You know, like that. It's not like, or you can just hang out and, you know, fuck with people on earth. That's not in the dogma. But so it makes me wonder if they've got other ideas of what is behind the phenomena.
Well, see, we've talked a lot about things being connected or the same thing. And I think that with the ghost stuff, I think this is where you get a separation, like, you know, in a way. I think that there's a lot of stuff that gets blamed or called ghosts or ghost activity. And I think that spirits of people who have died are part of it. I definitely think that there's enough evidence to say some of this stuff is people from beyond the grave. I mean, it almost has to be. You think about like the Teresita Bassa case. You can't really say anything against that. What can you do to argue something like that? To me, that's
what if it's not like so much as like, especially with like mediums or people that are like channeling spirits or even get possessed by spirits and know things that they shouldn't know. What if it's more that they're able to tap into like the universe, I guess we'll say, like the one thing that all energy emanates from and returns to, like they're able to tap into that, and as a result they get this information. Like it's not so much where you're getting a spirit that is specifically reaching out and interacting in the way that you and I are right now. Like it's not like it's a afterlife phone service where they're calling through and being like, "Hey, can you connect me to so and so? I'd like to talk to the living." And everyone's like crowding around this fucking ultra dimensional payphone trying to get their word into their loved one. And the receiver is just some poor sap on earth that happens to have access. No, leave me alone. Like, I think it's more than just that. I think it's kind of just like connecting to what unites all of us, like what the energy that we have, that everybody has, that we're all a part of and we all come from. And like, I wonder if that information is being drawn out, and just the way people filter it comes through differently. So in some cases you'll get like malevolent spin on it where it becomes like a demon, or maybe it is just something like there's a entity on the other side that knows more than we do because it experiences things differently and it uses it to fuck with people. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm a demon. I'm a demon all day. You know what? No, I'm 12 demons, and I'm also, get this, the ghost of Hitler. 12 demons and the ghost of Hitler. That's who I am right now. So, I'm pretty bad. Really, really, really bad and evil, and I have stinky farts. I'm the worst.
I'm the cause of all indigestion.
Yeah. The cause of all indigestion is the ghost of Hitler and 12 demons.
Bastards.
Yeah, they are fuckers. So I don't even want to get into who's behind the whole diarrhea thing. But
I'd like to have a word.
I'm sure we could guess.
Before we go any further, I got a question for you after hearing about this team. I think it's super fucking rad team. What does it mean to you when you hear that there's these cases that have been verified by the Catholic Church? Does that hold any weight for you?
Not really. And the reason being because, like, having them debunk things, it makes me feel like a little better, like they're being subjective. They don't want to put their stamp of approval on anything. But also you need to consider the fact that by proving this stuff, it supports their entire belief system. So there's kind of like a benefit to proving what you're researching is real.
Right.
Because if you're researching shit and you're debunking everything, then there's no evidence that your thing is the real thing, or that there's any basis of reality outside of faith. But if you can find, because I mean, let's be honest, with all of all the stuff written in the Bible was written, around 2,000 years ago, or even earlier in the case of the Old Testament. So physical evidence of miracles that occurred that were written in the book, you're not going to find them unless you consider the Shroud of Turin to be real. That would be the only existent piece of evidence that any of the miracles written about in the Bible even occurred. So to have modern proof of miracles, that helps to maintain the faith into the new century, into the next millennium even. Because, I mean, at this point, the Catholic Church has been around for a while. It's been a little less than 2,000 years, probably. So, we need some new stuff. Sure, the greatest hits are cool and all, but we need some new stuff, man. We need to know. We need to know that the big guy's still around. So that's, the fact that they debunk things, it is helpful because it's showing that they're not just latching on to everything and saying, yes, this is proof. And it shows that they're actually, being at least somewhat, at least providing the appearance of being objective. But also, like I said, there's a benefit to having this stuff be real. So how deep do you want to dive into debunking it?
Right.
Like if it passes just like surface level tests, are you happy with that? Like, oh yeah, there's no tube in this statue. There's it's not hollow. It's not attached to a fountain. So this is real now. And do they leave it at that? I don't know. I'm not one of these super awesome squad investigators, but I do wonder about it.
I wonder how quiet they're going to keep their findings, because I'd really love it if, I mean, maybe they're going to keep the ghost shit a little close to their vest there. I mean, you said there's some benefit to proving some of those things true or false. That could help them either way. So I would love if reports start coming out of them, I don't know, declaring the gargoyles that are supposedly coming alive at night and terrorizing this village is actually happening. And when they start, I don't know, approving the really weird shit that doesn't have to do so much with spiritualism, maybe.
Yeah, I want to see him try to take down Dogman. That's what I want. I want this to not only be a research center, but also a battle training ground where they train monster fighters.
Fuck yeah.
Vampire hunters and demon slayers.
Do you know how easy and cool it would be to be like a modern day monster hunter?
Yeah, like what if that's so? For anyone who doesn't know about the Vatican, for one, like I mentioned, it's its own country. So as its own country, it has its own standing army called the Swiss Guard, but they're basically like mercenaries more than anything, and they wear really silly costumes. But what if, in order to be a member of the Swiss Guard, you have to undergo monster hunting training?
Oh yeah, that's like fucking hand-to-hand combat, fighting off wolfmen and
yeah, like how to fend off vampires and
potion training.
Yeah, oh yeah, you definitely need potion training. You need to be able to tell the difference between a potion of paralysis and a healing potion. I mean, you'll be fucked otherwise.
Yeah.
Sharpened cross throwing, that's a big one. You gotta know how to do that.
Yep. Those things.
There's a proper way to sharpen your cross to make sure it maintains perfect balance. It's an art form, really.
Those things throw a little bit different than your average ninja star, mind you.
Yeah. That's why you need to be trained how to do it.
Be prepared.
It's a special skill that only a few people know. You got to be one of the chosen. I'm not one of the chosen. It may come as a surprise to you guys, may not. I don't know, but they didn't choose me to be a member of the elite Swiss Guard.
I mean, we're talking super elite, man. I mean, there is no specialist in just cross throwing. There is no specialist in potion making. They're all masters at all areas. It's hard.
I've got a robot arm and a mechanical knee. Like that should count for something.
Yeah, that should have been a shoe-in. I mean, they can put magic on your robot arm. Shit, fuck.
Yes, enchant my magic arm. Give me the holy power in my robot arm, and I can literally punch through demons.
Dude, that is awesome. You can just fucking put your hand on their forehead and fucking pray away the evil.
It implodes with holy white fire. So I'm gonna forward my application over anyway. As some of my accolades, I will be referencing my mechanical bits. If there's anybody out there who is a doctor or somebody who's really fancy or famous or top in their field, please let me know, because I would like for you to write me a letter of recommendation explaining to Pope Francis himself why I should be considered for a role in his elite monster destroying squad.
For your consideration.
Yeah, I mean, really, this is for everyone else's benefit. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I don't need to lay my life on the line, but I'm willing to do it to fight monsters and the devil himself, the fucking devil himself, for all of you guys. All I need is a letter of recommendation and a really sweet resume.
Look, he's got a robotic arm, and it's an advantage. He wants to use it for good.
Do you think saying that I fought a version of Barack Obama would help me or hurt me?
Ooh, we would have to look at like some poll numbers from that time when he was president. I don't know.
Yeah, like does the Vatican like Obama or not? I don't know. I'll have to gauge that. We'll play that. We'll play that by ear.
Well, you see, you got a good answer either way. You can just.
You know what? I'll just say one time I defeated an evil Time Lord, and just leave it at that. If they ask for names, we'll have to improvise in the moment. But for the time being, we'll say I'm going to stress the evil part too, because from what I hear, they don't like the evil stuff.
See, you can just say that. You can ask, like, "Hey, are you guys fans of Obama?" And if they say no, say, "I fucking."
I'm like, yeah, good, because I killed his future version, who is also a Time Lord and may still exist. Definitely still exists. But I killed a version of him.
Or if they say yes, say, "Well, I work for him."
Yeah, that's true too, because that's also true. So, I work for a version of him. I fought a version of him. Evil time traveling Barack Obama until all are one.
Oh, God. Do you think that's what's going to happen? All the Obamas are going to transform into one mega Obama?
No. What's going to happen is Obama is going to plant his seed everywhere across time so that at some point, everyone on Earth is a descendant of Obama.
God, there'll be no stopping him. Just no matter what time we land in, there's going to be an evil time traveling Obama.
So you there listening, yeah, you specifically, but also the person sitting next to you, Obama's going to f*** your mom. Sorry.
At least one of you.
Oh, no, both of you. Both of your moms are getting boned by Obama.
Wow, he's really going to spread it on, huh?
Yeah, and I hate to say this, guys. I really fucking hate to say this. He also your grandma. Yeah. I don't like it. I don't like it any more than you guys do.
You see why he needs to be stopped?
Yeah. There's a little Obama in all of us. On cold winter nights, sometimes there's a little more Obama, if you know what I mean.
Evil time traveling Barack Obama is always down.
Yeah, always. Always. You think you're all cold and freezing to death in some Arctic bunker somewhere, and there's a rap tap tappy on the door. Who's there? Evil time traveling Barack Obama, ready to keep you warm all night long.
I don't care who you are, stranger. Just embrace me.
Oh, you're not so evil after. Oh, wait a second. What are you doing? You are so evil, Barack Obama.
Well, the powers of seduction is part of being a Time Lord.
Yeah. He starts out acting like a nice guy, but before you know it, you've got a fucking ball gag in your mouth, and he's using hot wax on your nipples. So, hey, that's just how evil time traveling Barack Obama rolls.
He's freaky. I didn't know that. I thought he was...
Oh yeah. He's evil, man. He's not gentle, tender Barack Obama. That's
right.
That's no fun. That's not a good arch nemesis to have. Oh, it's gentle, tender time traveling Barack Obama. And he just comes in. Oh, hey, baby, how's things? And he sings me a song and strokes my head and rubs my feet, draws me a hot bath. Oh, this actually, you know what? This Obama sounds way better. I want to hang out with loving, tender time traveling Barack Obama.
That's Barry Soetoro, right?
No, because that's fun-loving young skateboarding Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's true.
He's fine. He likes to get stoned and stuff, but sometimes I just want my feet rubbed. Sometimes I just want to be told I'm pretty, Mateo.
Sometimes I just want some time love.
Yeah, and tender, loving, time-traveling Barack Obama would do that for me. And he'd probably make me a fucking cupcake, too, because he's a sweetheart. He's a sweet man. And I love him. I love him so much.
I love him. I do.
I don't know what the fuck this has to do with the Vatican, but I don't know. Obama's got a funny way of fucking shit up.
Yeah, he just sneaks in there. God, it's got to be some type of some curse or charm that's been put on us by evil time traveling Barack Obama. We keep his memory alive.
You will never forget me, ever. Like I said, we've all got a little Obama in us.
You will regale in our battles. The stories of our battles.
Yeah, and you will sigh longingly, thinking of my memory. He's right. That gleaming chrome of his forehead, glowing red of his eyes.
Longing for our next encounter.
The smell of owl guano on his shoulder. Oh. Anyway, you want to hear a ghost story from the Vatican?
Hell yeah.
All right. So this story has, I don't even think this is one of the ones that's being investigated by the Super Christian Paranormal Awesome Squad, but this is kind of a more of a legend, I guess. Like, I haven't seen any real evidence, but it's a ghost, so really what evidence are you going to see? But this is the ghost of Donna Olympia Pamphili, and she was a noblewoman in Italy in the mid 1600s, and she actually married the brother of Pope Innocent X, and he was the pope from the early 1640s until he died in 1655. But the story goes that Lady Pamphili was obsessed with the idea of raising her station in life higher. So she wasn't completely satisfied being married to a nobleman, even if that nobleman happened to be brother of the Pope. So she started developing this relationship with the Pope. And I don't think it was like a illicit, like, sexual relationship. But she earned his trust and ended up becoming like his closest confidant. So like she was his right-hand man, basically, like best friends, telling each other all their secrets. And she was, it went so far, like they became so close that it started being like, if anyone wanted something from the Pope, they would first have to go through Donna Olympia first.
Aha, she Rasputin'd her way in there.
Yeah. So because of this position, she had actually ended up earning a lot of powerful enemies. One of the things with the Vatican, especially in the Middle Ages, there were a lot of overly ambitious cardinals and bishops. There was a lot of vying for power and kind of making shady deals and stuff, trying to secure your own position within the church hierarchy. So because she was like right there with the Pope, she ended up having a lot of powerful enemies. So she was looking for a way to basically escape from the Vatican, but be able to maintain her lifestyle without having while still severing all ties to her life in the Vatican. So the story goes that she ended up secretly filling several chests with gold from the Vatican treasury, and she placed them in a carriage and secretly left the Vatican, crossing the Sisto Bridge. And she was actually able to escape, and her enemies didn't track her down, but she fell victim to the Black Plague 2 years later and died. But it's said that every year on the anniversary of Pope Innocent's death, which is January 7th, her phantom black carriage is seen going across the Sisto Bridge.
Ooh.
So it's just like it's like one of those urban legend ghost stories, like something you'd hear or read in like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark or something.
Right.
But if that's the case, like, it must have been it's weird because she didn't leave the Vatican when he died. Like that wasn't the date of her leaving. So it seems weird that her flight from Vatican would occur on the date of his death rather than the anniversary of her leaving. If that was the case, and I could say, maybe it was like one of those emotionally charged things that just left the energy recording on the land itself, and so we see it repeating over and over, like one of those things. But it's weird that it's tied to the anniversary of his death.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Maybe it's like, if it actually is her ghost, maybe it's like her feeling guilty for leaving the way she did, and that's her way of honoring him. She shows up on the anniversary of his death. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah. But there's, within, like I said, it's on top of a huge necropolis that has been used since the Roman Empire. So there's a lot of death and dead bodies that are under there. So there's pictures all over from tourists that show like weird shadowy figures. There's pictures that show what look like there was one inside the Sistine Chapel that someone took, and you can see the light coming in from the stained glass window, and in this beam of light, it looks like a flying being made of light. Like it's a really weird image. There was a shadow figure seen in the windows of St. Peter's Basilica. There was a UFO spotted over St. Peter's Basilica a few years ago, and there've been a lot of UFOs seen over, but this one, I'm going to see if I can send this to you.
Whoa, that's actually a good UFO photo.
Yeah, and this was it was an orange disc that was seen flying behind St. Peter's Basilica.
Wow.
Yeah, and then there's a number of different exorcism cases that have occurred that like I mentioned. I'm not going to get into those now. We'll talk about those in a future show. We'll just do one specifically about that. There's also been weird disappearances. Like I said, the disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. It was actually last year. A Netflix documentary came out called Vatican Girl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they looked into this case, and Father Gabriel Amorth, the Pope's Vatican, he actually weighed in on it as well. He weighed in on it in 2012, and he claimed that she was kidnapped by a member of the Vatican police for a sex ritual and then murdered. And he claimed that officials of an unnamed foreign embassy were involved as well.
This was in the documentary?
I don't know if they got him involved. He came out in 2012 to talk about it.
Okay.
And then the documentary came out it came out last year. Pope Francis just allowed people to start researching it or investigating it. There's a lot of weirdness with this case and there's a lot of conspiracy stuff involved. I'm not going to get too deep into it, just because this case alone could be its own thing, but we're not a true crime podcast, so I don't really want to get too deep down that road. But it's a weird story with a lot of different theories behind what happened, including links to Islamic terror groups, links to the KGB, perhaps something involving organized crime, like the Italian mafia.
Wow.
And then there's, like I said, the sex scandal theory. There was, so in 2013, Pope Francis came out and said that met with the family and said that Emanuela is in heaven now. And based on the conversation that he had with them, the family believed that he knew something about what was going on. Like, not that he was involved, but that he was aware of what happened. And there seems to be some credibility to the notion that the Vatican knew about it, because in 2017 there were these leaks that came out of the Vatican that were given to an Italian journalist named Emiliano Fittipaldi, and it's called the Vatileaks, like WikiLeaks, but it's the Vatican, so it's Vatileaks. But as part of this, there were these letters that came up that, well, there were letters and there were these documents that came up. One of them was a bill that was dated 1997 that says transfer to Vatican City with relative settlement of final practice. And it was tied to these other documents that were listed as summary report of the expenses incurred by the Vatican City State for activities relating to the citizen Emanuela Orlandi. And the document, or this group of documents, shows that the Vatican spent around 250,000 euros in order to care for Emanuela from 1983 until 1997. Now, remember, she didn't disappear until summer 1995, but I forgot to mention, she lived in Vatican City, and her father basically worked inside the Pope's house. So he was like a cleaner or butler or something. I don't know. He worked inside the Pope's house. So as a result, all of her siblings were allowed, basically, they were allowed to play around the grounds and play in the garden and everything. But she went missing when she was supposed to be going to flute practice. She said she met somebody from Avon, like the cosmetic company, and they offered her a job. And so she called after her flute lesson to tell her parents basically she was offered a job, and then she was never seen again. But basically what these documents show is that they paid for school fees at religious institutions and hospital bills in London during this time period. So in 1985, when she went missing, she was 15 years old. And they're saying they paid for her until 1997. And at that point, that's that. But the Vatican is saying they don't know anything about it at all.
But it's on record?
Yeah, these were part of the documents that were leaked. But the Vatican says that these are false documents and are utterly ridiculous. This is from the spokesperson for the Holy See, Greg Burke, which the Holy See is a way, basically it's everything that the Pope oversees. So like if Pope was the king, the Holy See would be his kingdom. But the Orlandi family, once they saw these documents, they began thinking that because they came from inside the Vatican, that they could have been written and released on purpose through these leaks as a way to silence maybe factions that were within the Vatican that were wanting to talk about this stuff. So they put this out there like, hey, shut up, kind of like a warning. But there was also a letter that showed up that seems very strange. The letter was written in 1993 from the Archbishop of Canterbury, Cardinal Ugo Paletti. And in the letter, he mentions Emanuela Orlandi specifically, and he says that it would be better to the person that he was writing the letter to, that it would be better for them to meet and talk in person about the matter.
Hmm.
And the letter itself was mailed to an address of 176 Clapham Road in London, which is the same address where the documents saying where showing the expenses spent in London listed her as living for years.
Wow.
So they don't know what happened. They still haven't found her body. There hasn't been anybody who has come out and said there were some. Someone said, I can't remember exactly how this was communicated, but that her body was in a specific tomb. So in January of this year, 2023, the Vatican announced that it would reopen the case, and Pope Francis himself appointed head prosecutor Alessandro Didi to lead the investigation. This is where they found those tunnels I mentioned earlier with the thousands of unknown skeletons. But when they checked the specific tombs that were said to be one of the places where she was, not only was she not there, but the tombs were completely empty. Whoever was supposed to have been buried there was also removed from the tomb as well. So I don't know. There's so much more. Like I barely even scratched the surface on this. I just wanted to, because it was so weird. And there was another mysterious disappearance of another teenage girl that happened like 2 weeks before that or something. Or, oh no, I'm sorry. It happened a month before. Her name was Mirella Gregori. And there's a lot of people that think the two disappearances may be connected in some way. So I don't know if you're in it, again, we're not a true crime podcast. So like I didn't want to get too deep in the weeds on that one, but if that sounds interesting to you, look up Vatican Girl on Netflix, and there's a 4-part documentary series about it. And you can, I haven't watched it yet. I'm just aware of that it exists. So I can't say, how much of the conspiracy stuff they get into, or if they get into all the theories, or I don't know. But, true crime isn't my jam. I'm not a big fan. I like to keep my weirdness weird, and the depressing stuff I like to keep as fiction.
Well, I've always been into true crime, but I mean, in the past couple of years, I've stopped listening to like everything true crime that I did listen to. I just, I don't know, rather fill my head with, like you said, the weird shit.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I wanna end this with a really weird one. So I mentioned earlier that typically, if a pope is a pope, he's pope till death. But in 2003, Pope Benedict the 15th, was it? No, Pope Benedict the 16th, he stepped down. And immediately following his resignation, a bolt of lightning struck Vatican City. As if that wasn't already kind of weird and ominous, shortly after the lightning struck, I gotta preface this by stating that there's a lot of live cams around the Vatican that you can, I don't know if you're still able to access them, but as of at that time period, they were still accessible. This one in particular was on, it's a 24-hour live cam of Pope John Paul II's tomb. And shortly after the lightning struck Vatican City, people who happened to be watching the webcam footage, or not webcam, the live cam footage of Pope John Paul II's tomb, saw at 4:20 in the afternoon, the entire room lit up with a bright light. And then the light came like centralized and formed into the shape of a human figure that stood in front of the tomb. It moved slightly and then disappeared.
Whoa, can we see this anywhere?
Let me see. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I can't find anything showing it.
I mean, I'm sure if it was, they were hesitant to release it.
Yeah, it's probably locked in the Vatican archives somewhere. But still, you'd think like something like that would be like, hey, look, this, unless they looked at it as like a bad omen, you know, like he stepped down, we get struck by lightning, and then a ghost shows up in front of John Paul II's tomb.
Yeah, that could have been a bad sign that their super team are well aware of.
Maybe. The Vatican archives are supposed to be filled with all sorts of wacky shit too, like fucking proof of aliens' existence, the true name of God. Like, the true name of God, I doubt it, but imagine you go down there and, oh my God, what's God's true name? Bartholomew? What? I was expecting something imposing and not. So you're telling me my God is Bart?
Twipples? That's not even a name.
Yeah. Just, I don't know. All sorts of wacky shit with the Vatican. And I mean, the cool thing is, like, we've been going on for almost an hour now, and we could go with so many different episodes just about the Vatican specifically, like the way it's set up, all the, like I mentioned earlier, all the symbolism. We could get into conspiracy theories. We could get into fucking exorcists, all sorts of shit. So if you guys are into Vatican stuff, let us know. Feel free to join our Patreon, and then you can have access to our Discord, and you can pester us incessantly and tell us, hey, I want more Vatican stuff. And I'll be like, all right, I'll give you more Vatican stuff. Or you can be like, hey, I hate Vatican stuff. And I'll be like, well, I'm sorry. I'll not do any more Vatican stuff. And then if there's two of you and one of you says, hey, I like Vatican stuff, and the other says, I hate Vatican stuff, you guys can fight to the death, and whoever wins, I'll go with their wishes, but only if you fight to the death.
Deathmatch.
Yeah, we're not going till, first person taps out or cries or farts. To the death, and that means to the death.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.